That's where he's going in on.
Stevie, can you play it one time?
Hey YouTube! To celebrate hitting 50,000 subscribers on the eBassGuitar YouTube channel in the last couple of weeks, we're doing something completely different today. A couple of months ago, a Netflix music documentary turned up on my radar called The Greatest Night in Pop. Basically, it's a documentary on how the legendary song that united the world against hunger, We Are the World, was made. It featured over 40 American megastars from the 1980s and came shortly after the UK charity supergroup Band Aid made the hit song Do They Know It's Christmas. You know, I had to watch that documentary as soon as possible. For me, it was just like watching my favourite superheroes on TV as a kid. All of the superheroes of the music industry at the time were there. Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder, Bob Dylan, Kenny Rogers, Huey Lewis, Ray Charles, to name just a few. 46 extraordinary vocalists doing what they do best was a magnificent sight to watch. It was truly mind-blowing how these A-list pop stars came together for one night to create one song that changed the world. So there I was, all totally engrossed on the TV, discovering this iconic night of pop music history, which granted, I knew very little about. But as the documentary went on, there was one question that I just couldn't shake off. When are they going to talk about the band and the musicians? So I waited and waited and waited, hoping there was going to be mention of the guys that created the instrumental track that these incredible vocalists sung over. Now, I'm a bass player, so naturally this was something I was super curious about. But not a single musician was mentioned, not even in the rolling credits at the end. So naturally, my next question was, why? This isn't the 1950s anymore, is it? Where musicians were rarely credited. Thankfully, with the help of just a few video clips from the documentary and some internet-based research, it wasn't too hard to find out who the musicians were. As I expected, these musicians were the A-listers of the time. Some of the biggest names within their instrument, just as Michael Jackson was to pop vocals. These guys are musical giants in their own right and have played on dozens and dozens and dozens of chart-topping records. These were and still are some of the session aces within the Los Angeles music scene, which were pulled together by the great producer and musical visionary Quincy Jones. For whatever reason, Netflix chose not to mention or even credit the band. So, I'm going to take this opportunity to shine a light on these brilliant characters and instrumentalists of the music world. For today's video, we'll talk about the top 4 musicians behind the rhythm section who played and worked on We Are the World. We will cover their past work and collaborations, their individual key influences to the worldwide music scene, their recognition, the awards they've received, and some of the hit songs they played or produced. Obviously, this song had a lot of people who worked on it, so we had to cross-reference absolutely everything we could to make sure we got it right. We've researched multiple sources which, in full transparency, do say slightly different things. We've taken this information and got it to a place which we think is accurate. Obviously, if you do know something different, or maybe a story or anecdote we do not cover, let us know in the comments below. Let's dive right in and give these musicians some well-deserved love. One last thing before we get going, we are celebrating a significant milestone on the eBassGuitar YouTube channel. As I said earlier, we have hit 50,000 subscribers, which puts us in the top 1.5% of all YouTube channels. We'd love to continue this growth up to 100,000 subscribers, so I've got a quick favour to ask. If you enjoy this video and you're not subscribed to the eBassGuitar YouTube channel, please can you hit the red button which is somewhere around this video. What this means to us is we can keep putting more great educational musical videos out into the world. And for you, you'll be the first to know when a new video goes live, so you'll never miss a thing. It's a win-win for everyone. So please hit that red subscribe button, which is around this video. Let's crack on. First of all, let's talk drums. John J.R. Robinson was the drummer on We Are the World. He's a highly acclaimed drummer and musician, renowned for his exceptional, highly refined groove and musical versatility. Born on December the 29th, 1954 in Creston, Iowa, Robinson established himself as one of the most in-demand session drummers in the business. His career took off in the late 1970s and early 80s when he began working with notable artists and bands such as Rufus and Chaka Khan, Lionel Richie, and Michael Jackson. He gained widespread recognition for his work on Michael Jackson's iconic album Off the Wall, particularly for his drumming on tracks like Rock With You and Off the Wall. There isn't a drummer in the land which doesn't know the iconic drum fill to the intro of Off the Wall. Check this out. Let's hear that once more. Now, it's safe to say there are not too many drummers who have created or composed a simple 4-beat drum fill that is so instantly recognizable. Interestingly, JR's roots started in jazz with the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra and also studying at the Berklee School of Music with other students who also went on to be drumming greats like Steve Smith, Kenwood Denard, and Vinnie Colaiuta. Throughout his career, JR has contributed to 30 #1 hit songs, 10,000 recording sessions across various genres including pop, rock, R&B, and jazz. His impeccable timing, groove, and musical intuition have made him one of the most recorded drummers in music history. With tracks and collaborations ranging from artists such as Quincy Jones to Madonna, Herbie Hancock to Stanley Clarke, Peter Frampton to Elton John, and even Lady Gaga to Daft Punk, JR's drumming style is marked by its precision, vigour, and knack for amplifying and enhancing a song's energy. And that's not all. Robinson isn't just a master behind the drum kit. He's also an experienced producer and songwriter, which further showcases his versatility and depth in the music industry. Overall, John J.R. Robinson's credentials on the drum session scene are unparalleled and have given him a permanent spot in Rolling Stone's magazine's The Top 100 Drummers of All Time. To listen to his playing more, make sure you check out Higher Love by Stevie Winwood, Greatest Love of All by Whitney Houston, and I'm So Excited by the Pointer Sisters, to name just a few. Here's a clip of JR doing exactly what made him the most recorded drummer in history. So that's the drums taken care of. Let's move on to the bass guitar. Obviously, eBassGuitar is a bass guitar based YouTube channel. So the next musician we need to feature is Louis Johnson. Famously known as Thunder Thumbs, Louis was a bass player who left an incredible mark on the music scene. Born in 1955, Johnson's rise to music industry fame and his career took off primarily in the 1970s and 1980s. He was a true master and pioneer of the electric bass. His innovative slap bass technique, characterized by percussive thumb slapping and popping, earned him the iconic nickname Thunder Thumbs. As a session musician, he was highly sought after, contributing his talents to hit records across various genres, including pop, funk, R&B, and jazz. Johnson's flamboyant playing style made him a valuable asset to recording artists and producers alike. Louis's initial break into the music business came with his brother George via the legendary organ player Billy Preston. For the next 2 years, they toured with Preston, supporting major artists such as Chicago, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and Grand Funk Railroad. Both Johnsons were prolific songwriters, so much so, whilst on the road, they wrote several hundred songs, which ultimately led them to stop touring and form their own group, the Brothers Johnson. Success came quickly after the brothers were taken up by the incredible producer Quincy Jones. He became their manager, mentor, and collaborator, and was also the important link which led Lewis onto his iconic session work as a studio bassist. As a session bassist, he worked on the best-selling Michael Jackson album, Off the Wall, and played the bass on smash hits like Billie Jean. His session work extended to albums and tracks by Quincy Jones, Paul McCartney, Donna Summer, Aretha Franklin, and George Benson, and many, many more. He provided the foundation for countless chart-topping hits. By 1982, the brothers Johnson had split, and Lewis was well and truly established as a session musician. His influence on bass playing cannot be overstated. I love this quote, which essentially shows just how significant his playing was. Every time I'd get in the car to go somewhere, I'd hear me playing the bass. I was all over the place. His innovative and virtuosic slap bass technique revolutionized the instrument's role in contemporary music, inspiring generations of bass players, myself very much included. He even played a role in developing the Music Man Stingray bass alongside Leo Fender. In my opinion, one of the 3 most important bass guitars in music history. Throughout his career, Lewis Johnson received acclaim and recognition, including a Lifetime Achievement Award from Bass Player Live in 2015. He even made one of the very early bass guitar instructional VHS videos on slap bass. His legacy continues to influence musicians, hence why we're still talking about him to this very day. And my good friend, British bass player Phil Mulford, has an incredible tribute band simply called Thunder Thumbs. Do check them out. Sadly, Lewis passed away in 2015. His playing remains a testament to his unique talent, creativity, and skill, paving the way for generations of bass players to follow in his footsteps. Interestingly, on We Are the World, Lewis plays synth bass, and he's also credited with synth bass, but is actually pictured with his Music Man Stingray bass guitar in the brief footage of the band in the documentary. This is a really interesting insight into the creative process of making the track. Right now, I want to leave you with a video which shows Lewis at his absolute best. Check out this live footage from LA in 1982, which showcases his virtuosic slap bass chops. So that's the bass taken care of. Let's move on to the keyboard player. Let's move on to Greg Phillinganes. Greg is one of the most versatile keyboard players on the planet. A true musical wizard in multiple musical styles, from pop to jazz and everything in between. His extensive contributions to the LA music session scene have earned him a stellar reputation amongst artists and producers alike, and he's still working relentlessly to this very day with musicians like John Mayer and Dave Gilmour from Pink Floyd. I first discovered Greg Phillinganes back at Knebworth 90, performing with Eric Clapton's band with the mind-blowing Nathan East on bass, Steve Ferroni on drums, and Ray Cooper on percussion. Turns out, Greg is one heck of a dancer too. Check out the guy in the yellow suit. Back to the serious stuff. Little did I know at the time, his career started way back in the 70s and has spanned decades of smash hits as both a session keyboard player and also, really interestingly, as a synth bass player too. With the impressive discography, Phillinganes has worked with iconic artists like Paul Simon, Leonard Cohen, James Taylor, Quincy Jones, all the way through to Joan Armatrading, Brian Ferry, and Leo Sayer. Notably, Phillinganes served as Michael Jackson's musical director and keyboard player for several tours and albums, including Off the Wall and Thriller. Notably for me personally, he also worked on the seminal Stevie Wonder album Songs in the Key of Life and created some of the extraordinary synth bass parts on the Chaka Khan version of We Can Work It Out. Over the last 20 years, he has joined musicians like Steve Lukather, Simon Phillips and Leland Sklar in the session supergroup Toto. Here's an excerpt of Greg playing a solo feature live with Toto back in Paris in 2007. Here you'll discover his mind-blowing musicianship, groove and technical facility. And if you watch the rest of the show, you'll also discover he's a great vocalist too. Check this out. So we've taken care of the keyboards now. Let's finally take a look at the producer. You may have noticed that there's been one name running constantly throughout this video, and it would be absolutely remiss of me not to dig deeper into his input into We Are The World. That's the producer, Quincy Jones, the musical visionary that took the initial Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie song and made it into the record We Are The World that we still hear today. Now, if you haven't already done it, I would recommend reading Quincy's 2002 biography. His life and career blew my mind when I first discovered the humble roots he came from. His mother suffered from schizophrenia, and there were times his family was so poor they ate rats. As a musician, Quincy started life as a jazz trumpeter and toured in the Lionel Hampton Orchestra. In the mid-50s, he scored a temporary job working for the CBS stage show hosted by Jimmy and Tommy Dorsey, which led him into the world of television and working alongside Elvis Presley in the very early days. Soon after this, he became the musical director for the legendary jazz trumpet player Dizzy Gillespie in his band. The early 60s gave Quincy another break, where he moved into film composition and arranging. During this period, he worked on movies such as The Deadly Affair, In Cold Blood, In the Heat of the Night, McKenna's Gold, and The Italian Job. Alongside this, he also arranged for artists such as Ella Fitzgerald, Peggy Lee, Sarah Vaughan, and Dinah Washington. This was just the start of a career which led him on to receive more than 26 Grammy Awards. During the 1960s, another important collaboration happened between Q, as he is affectionately known, and Frank Sinatra. This culminated in the iconic live album Sinatra at the Sands, recorded in 1966. During this period, believe it or not, Quincy was recording film sessions during the day in Los Angeles and flying to conduct the Count Basie Orchestra in Las Vegas in the evening. Another turning point in Quincy's career happened in 1978, when Quincy produced the soundtrack for the hit film The Wiz, with Diana Ross and a young Michael Jackson. This led Quincy to produce two of the biggest albums in pop music history, Off the Wall and Thriller, both by Michael Jackson. Here's a clip from Ease On Down the Road from The Wiz with the masterful Anthony Jackson on bass. Listen out for one of the best bass lines I've ever heard. Quincy's career then led him through the world of pop music into television production with his company, Quincy Jones Entertainment. This company produced the hit TV show The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which starred Will Smith. This made Quincy Jones a household name. Back to We Are The World in 1985. This song was initially written by Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie. Quincy played a key role in bringing together all the different artists and musicians. He masterminded the overall sound of the song with the incredible musicians we've already mentioned over just a few days, and then also masterminded the recording process to get the best out of each artist in a truly unique overnight vocal recording session. Quincy famously put up a sign saying, check your egos at the door, and also said, we don't want to make a hunger record in tuxedos, to encourage the artists to wear casual clothing, as most of them had just come from the American Music Awards. One thing which is striking to me, throughout all the twists and turns of Quincy's career, he never ever lost his roots in jazz. So much so, in 1991, he convinced Miles Davis, who famously never looked back or revisited the past, to revive his work from the 1950s, which he made with the legendary arranger Gil Evans. This resulted in the final Miles Davis album, Miles and Quincy Live at Montreux, and features tracks such as Sketches of Spain and Porgy and Bess. Sadly, Miles died just 2 months later. To wrap up, let's go back to the 1960s. There's one iconic piece of music that you may not even know was Quincy. That's the theme of the blockbuster movie Austin Powers. Here's Quincy Jones conducting soul bossa nova from The Late Show with David Letterman. Just check out the infectious energy he's pulling out the whole of the band. That's it for today, folks. These are some of the legendary musicians that were behind the rhythm section of We Are the World. So, for whatever reason, Netflix did not include or name check these masterful musicians. I'm thrilled it gave me the opportunity to dig deep into these guys' careers and share some of the incredible music they have made. Now, there were more musicians featured on the We Are the World track than we had time to cover in this video. If you'd like a part 2 to this video where we dig even deeper into the track and more of the A-list personnel, do let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and if you're subscribed to the eBassGuitar YouTube channel, I just want to say a massive thank you for helping us hit the milestone of 50,000 subscribers. It means the world to me. Now, if you're not already subscribed to the eBassGuitar YouTube channel and you'd like to see more content just like this, please do hit that red button, which is somewhere around this video.